The blistering Montana sun beat down on the mobile medical unit as Emma Carter wiped a bead of sweat from her forehead. She had been working non-stop since dawn, tending to patients in this remote part of the state where proper health care was a rare luxury. The air inside the clinic was thick with the scent of antiseptic and the low hum of weary voices, but she had long since learned to tune it out. Then her phone buzzed. She ignored it at first, focusing on the elderly man in front of her, wrapping a fresh bandage around his frail wrist. But when it vibrated again, insistent, demanding, she pulled it from her pocket. Frank Dawson. Emma's stomach twisted. Her stepfather never called unless he wanted something. For a moment, she debated letting it go to voicemail, but against her better judgment, she pressed accept and lifted the phone to her ear. "Emma, long time no talk, sweetheart." His voice was drenched in false cheerfulness, the kind that made her skin crawl. She exhaled sharply, already bracing for whatever scheme he was about to throw at her. "What do you want, Frank?" "Ah, come on now, can't a stepfather just check in on his favorite daughter?" Emma clenched her jaw. She had long outgrown his manipulative games. "I'll ask again. What do you want?" There was a brief silence, then his voice returned, smooth as ever. "Well, since you asked, I sold the mountain cabin." Emma froze. The room around her blurred, the distant voices of patients and nurses fading into white noise. She must have misheard. "You did what?" Her own voice sounded distant. "Sold it," Frank repeated as though it were the most casual thing in the world. "It was just collecting dust. Plus, I had debts to settle. You'll thank me later." Emma felt the breath leave her lungs. Her fingers clenched around the phone. The cabin wasn't just some property. It was her sanctuary, the only place where she felt close to her father, who had passed away when she was young. It was where she had spent summers fishing, hiking, and lying under the stars with Rachel, her childhood best friend. It was hers, and Frank had no right to sell it. She inhaled sharply, forcing herself to speak. "You had no authority to sell that cabin." Frank chuckled, that smug, infuriating sound that had haunted her childhood. "Relax, Emma. You're never there anyway. Why not let someone else enjoy it? And besides, my debts aren't exactly going to pay themselves." Rage coiled in her chest like a living thing. "I don't give a damn about your debts, Frank. That cabin wasn't yours to sell." Technically, it was. Emma's grip tightened on the phone. "No, Frank, it wasn't." Because Frank had no idea. The cabin wasn't solely in Emma's name. She co-owned it with Rachel, and legally, any sale required both of their signatures. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. "You're going to regret this." "Come on, sweetheart, don't be so dramatic." "Dramatic?" Emma nearly laughed. "You stole from me, Frank." "Borrowed," he corrected smoothly. "Once I get back on my feet, I'll make it up to you. Just give it some time." That was it, the final straw. "Go to hell, Frank," she hissed before ending the call. Her entire body trembled. She'd spent years dealing with Frank's selfishness, his reckless gambling, his never-ending excuses. But this was personal. Her chest heaved with barely restrained fury as she tapped on her contacts and pressed Rachel's name. The phone barely rang once before Rachel answered. "Hey, Em, what's up?" Emma didn't bother with pleasantries. Frank sold the cabin. There was a long pause. Then, "He what?" Emma swallowed, her throat tight. "Apparently, he needed the money to settle his debts. He thinks he can get away with it, but I know for a fact that he can't legally sell it without both our signatures." Rachel let out a low whistle. That son of a Bina really thought he could pull this off. He's about to find out just how wrong he is. "Damn right he is." Rachel's voice hardened. "I'll pull up the records. If this is fraud, we're taking him down." Emma exhaled. "Thank you, Rachel. Always, Em. Always." As she hung up, a strange calm settled over her. Frank thought he had outsmarted her, that she was too far away, too busy, too passive to fight back. But he had underestimated her. This wasn't just about a cabin, this was about not letting Frank manipulate her anymore. And by the time she was done, he would know exactly who he was dealing with. The tires of Emma Carter's SUV screeched slightly as she rounded the final bend up the winding Colorado mountain road. Her fingers clenched the steering wheel, knuckles white. Her heart had been racing since she left Montana, fueled by a mixture of rage, disbelief, and the gnawing ache of betrayal. Frank had done a lot of terrible things over the years, but this was personal. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows over the trees, their rustling leaves whispering like they knew the storm that was about to unfold. Then finally she saw it. The cabin, a place that had once been her refuge, her safe haven. The wooden structure stood strong against the sprawling mountain backdrop, but something felt off. Emma's stomach twisted as she pulled into the driveway. The front porch looked slightly different. Some of the furniture was missing. The wooden rocking chair her father had built was gone. A lump formed in her throat. The mailbox was stuffed full of unfamiliar letters. She stepped out of the car, her boots crunching against the gravel, and pulled the stack of envelopes free. Her heart sank. Final notice, debt collection. Urgent response required. She flipped through them, her pulse pounding louder with each one. Frank's name was on almost every single letter. That son of a... Emma's fingers tightened around the stack before she forced herself to take a slow breath. This wasn't the time to lose control. She had to stay sharp. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, making her jump. She fished it out, pressing the screen to her ear without even checking the caller ID. "Emma, we have a problem." Rachel's voice was sharp, urgent. Emma swallowed. "Tell me something I don't know." "I pulled up the records like I said I would. Frank didn't file an official transfer yet, but he found a buyer. Jonathan Blake. The guy's a real estate investor." Emma clenched her jaw. "So Frank's trying to push the sale through before the paperwork is finalized?" "Looks like it. But get this, I found something else." There was a pause. Emma could hear Rachel shifting through papers in the background. The sale isn't just some standard transaction. It's messy, shady, and I don't think Frank even told the guy the full story. Emma inhaled sharply, pushing a hand through her hair. "Okay, we stop it. We go to Blake and we tell him the truth. Easier said than done. I'll try to track him down, but there's something else." Rachel hesitated. "What?" Emma's grip on the phone tightened. "Your mom's been calling me. She wants to talk to you." Emma shut her eyes. She should have seen that coming. Where is she? At Frank's. And Emma? She sounds worried. Emma exhaled. "I'll deal with her later. Right now, I need to see for myself what the hell Frank's been up to." She barely had time to process what Rachel said before the front door creaked open. A familiar figure stood in the doorway. Linda Dawson, her mother. Her eyes were puffy, dark circles beneath them like she hadn't slept in days. Emma. Linda's voice was quiet, hesitant, and filled with something Emma couldn't quite place. Guilt, maybe? Mom. Emma wasn't sure what she expected. A weak defense of Frank? A plea for forgiveness? Linda took a shaky breath. I didn't know it had gotten this bad." Emma stared at her, arms crossed tightly over her chest. "Didn't know? Or didn't want to know?" Linda flinched. "I tried, Emma. I really did. But Frank, he always had an excuse. Always said he'd fix things." Emma's jaw tightened. "And you believed him? What was I supposed to do?" Linda's voice cracked. "He was drowning in debt. And that's supposed to make this okay." Emma's voice was dangerously quiet. Linda's gaze dropped. "No." A silence stretched between them. I didn't want to lose you both." Emma's chest ached, but she didn't let it show. "You already lost me, Mom." Linda's face crumpled. Before either of them could say another word, a car pulled up the driveway, a sleek black sedan. Emma didn't have to see the driver to know who it was. She could feel the arrogance rolling off him. The car door swung open and Frank Dawson stepped out, wearing that same infuriating smirk. Well, 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 look who finally decided to come home. Emma's fingers curled into fists. You're a real piece of work, Frank. Now, let's not start with the insults. We're family, after all. Emma barked out a laugh. You sold my home. Forgive me if I don't feel particularly sentimental. Frank shrugged. It's just business, sweetheart. You stole from me, Frank. Borrowed, he corrected. Emma took a step forward, her voice deathly calm. I'm going to make sure you regret every single thing you've done. Frank chuckled. You always were a bit dramatic. You should thank me, really. I got a good price for the place. Emma's blood boiled. You had no right. I had every right. Legally, number you didn't. Frank's smirk faltered, just for a second. But then he recovered. It's done, Emma. There's nothing you can do. Emma's phone buzzed in her hand. She looked down at the screen. A text from Rachel. We have a bigger problem. Her stomach twisted. She looked back at Frank, her anger sharpening into something colder. You're wrong. Frank cocked his head. About what? Emma met his gaze, unwavering. This is far from over. The drive back into town was a blur of headlights and seething anger. Emma gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles ached, her mind racing through every possible way to make Frank suffer for what he'd done. Rachel had said there was a bigger problem, and if it was worse than her stepfather committing fraud to sell her cabin, she wasn't sure she was ready to hear it. Her phone buzzed again as she pulled into Rachel's driveway. Rachel, get inside. Now. Emma didn't even knock. She pushed the door open to find Rachel sitting at her dining table, surrounded by a mess of legal documents, laptop screens glowing, and a nearly empty bottle of wine. Rachel barely looked up. I found something. Emma yanked out a chair and sat. Tell me. Rachel took a slow breath, flipping over a document and sliding it across the table. That bastard didn't just sell the cabin to cover debts. He sold it because he owed a very particular person money. Emma's stomach twisted. Who? Rachel's eyes darkened. Marcus Kane. Emma felt a chill creep down her spine. Tell me you're kidding. I wish I was. Marcus Kane wasn't just any loan shark. He was the kind of man who didn't take missed payments lightly. How bad? Rachel leaned back, rubbing her temples. From what I can dig up, Frank owed him at least 60 grand. He tried to pay off some of it, but obviously it wasn't enough. So he did what he always does. He found something to sell, something that wasn't his. Emma gritted her teeth. And now he's dragging me into it. It gets worse. Emma's jaw clenched. How the hell does it get worse, Rachel? Rachel turned her laptop screen toward Emma. It was a contract. A forged contract. Emma's name was on it. Rachel tapped the screen. That's your signature. Except, of course, it's not yours. Emma stared at the paper, rage simmering beneath her skin. He forged my damn signature? Not just yours. Look at this. Rachel scrolled down to another name. Jonathan Blake. Emma's heart pounded. The buyer. What about him? I called his office. He never signed this either. Emma stood so fast her chair scraped against the hardwood floor. We need to find him. Now. Jonathan Blake's office, Denver, Colorado. Jonathan Blake's office was in a high-rise downtown, sleek and expensive. Exactly the kind of place that screamed real estate mogul. Emma and Rachel stormed through the lobby, flashing their IDs at a receptionist who barely had time to react before they were in the elevator. Are we really just barging in? Emma asked. If we make an appointment, he'll blow us off, Rachel muttered, eyes locked on the floor numbers ticking upward. The doors dinged open. A well-dressed assistant barely had time to look up before Rachel strode past her and pushed open the office door. Jonathan Blake was sitting behind a glass desk, phone to his ear, eyes narrowing at their intrusion. I'll call you back, he muttered into the receiver before setting it down. Then he folded his hands, looking at them coolly. "This is a hell of a way to introduce yourselves." Rachel tossed the forged contract onto his desk. "Explain this." Jonathan glanced down, his brow furrowed as he flipped through the papers. "I never signed this," he said slowly. "We know," Emma said flatly. Jonathan sat back in his chair, exhaling sharply. "So Frank Dawson played me." Emma nodded. Jonathan let out a humorless chuckle. "I should have seen it coming. The man was desperate as hell. He tried to push the deal faster than any I've done before, and now I see why. Because he knew he couldn't legally sell it." Rachel crossed her arms. Jonathan ran a hand through his hair. "I put a deposit down. Not the full amount, but enough that I'll be pissed if I don't get it back." Emma's stomach twisted. "Who did you pay?" Jonathan hesitated. "His assistant. Some guy named Ethan Monroe," Rachel finished for him. Jonathan's eyes snapped to hers. Emma frowned. "Who's Ethan Monroe?" Rachel's expression darkened. "Frank's favorite errand boy. He's helped him out of trouble before, but I had no idea he was involved in this." Jonathan leaned forward. "And now you want my help." Emma met his gaze. "You got played, Jonathan. So did I, but if we work together, we can stop Frank before this gets worse." Jonathan sighed, rubbing his temples. "Fine, but I have one condition." Emma raised an eyebrow. "If I help you stop Frank, I want my damn money back." Rachel smirked. "Deal." Emma's mother calls. Another warning. On the way back to Rachel's place, Emma's phone rang. Her stomach clenched when she saw the name. Linda Dawson. She debated ignoring it, but something told her not to. She pressed answer. "Emma." Her mother's voice was shaky. "What do you want, Mom?" "You need to stop." Emma frowned. "Excuse me? Frank, he's not going to just let this go, and neither is Marcus Kane." Emma's blood ran cold. What the hell does that mean? Linda hesitated. "Mom, don't play games with me. If you know something, you need to tell me now." There was a long pause. Then in a quiet, broken voice, "Emma, I think Marcus is coming after you next." A chill ran down Emma's spine. What did Frank do? "I don't know the details, but Frank promised Marcus something. And now that the sale isn't going through, Marcus is going to come looking for payment another way." Emma's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "Let him come." Linda let out a soft, broken sob. "Emma, please, be careful." The line went dead. Emma swallowed hard, staring at the empty road ahead. Rachel shot her a glance. What was that about? Emma's voice was cold. "Frank's not our only problem." Rachel's brows furrowed. "What now?" Emma exhaled, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. "Marcus Kane is coming." Rachel cursed under her breath. Emma tightened her grip on the wheel, her jaw set. "Frank thinks this is over, but I'm just getting started." Emma's pulse thrummed in her ears as she gripped the steering wheel. The weight of her mother's warning sat heavy on her chest. Marcus Kane was coming. She had spent years dealing with Frank's selfishness, but this was different. This wasn't just a family dispute anymore. This was dangerous. Rachel sat beside her, tapping furiously on her phone. "We need to move fast," she muttered, "before Frank figures out that we're closing in." Emma nodded, inhaling sharply as she pulled into Rachel's driveway. The second they stepped inside, Rachel tossed her keys onto the table and flipped open her laptop. "Jonathan's putting a stop payment on the deposit he sent to Ethan Monroe," she said. "That's going to set Frank off." Emma ran a hand through her hair. "Good. Let him be pissed. He's been stealing from me for years. He can finally feel what it's like to lose something." Rachel's phone buzzed, and she cursed under her breath. "What?" Emma asked. Rachel held up her screen. It was a text from Frank. "Frank, I don't know what you think you're doing, but you better back off. You have no idea who you're messing with." Emma's blood boiled. She grabbed her own phone and quickly typed back, "Emma, you mean Marcus Kane? Oh, I know exactly who I'm messing with. And soon, so will the cops." Seconds later, Frank called. Rachel motioned for Emma to put him on speaker. Emma swiped to accept. "You have no idea what you've done," Frank growled. "No, Frank," Emma shot back. "You have no idea what you've done. Do you even realize how deep I am in this?" Frank's voice wavered, panic starting to seep through his usual arrogance. "You think you're so damn smart, but you just pissed off the wrong people." "You pissed them off first," Emma snapped, "and now you're dealing with the consequences." Frank exhaled heavily. "Emma, listen to me. You need to let this go. If you push this any further, you're going to get hurt." Emma's grip on the phone tightened. "Is that a threat?" "No," Frank said quickly. "It's a warning. Marcus doesn't play by the same rules we do." "I don't care." Rachel arched an eyebrow. Emma ignored her. "You stole from me, Frank. You lied. You forged my name. And now you expect me to back off because you're scared? Not a chance." There was silence. Then, "I can fix this," Frank muttered. "I just need time." "You had time. You wasted it. Now you get to see what happens when you screw over the wrong person." Emma hung up. Rachel let out a low whistle. That was cold. Emma stared at her phone. Not cold, just done. Confronting Frank, the moment of truth. The next morning, Emma and Rachel pulled up to Frank's house. The place looked like hell. The lawn was overgrown, the blinds were drawn, and an old dented sedan sat in the driveway. "Ready?" Rachel asked. Emma nodded. She didn't knock. She shoved the door open. Frank sat on the couch, a half-empty bottle of whiskey on the table. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair disheveled. "Well, if it isn't my favorite stepdaughter," he slurred. Emma's jaw tightened. "You look like shit." Frank laughed bitterly. "Yeah, well, losing everything will do that to a man." Emma crossed her arms. "Let's cut the crap. The sale is dead. The contract was fraudulent. Jonathan pulled his deposit. The cops know what you did." Frank's smirk faltered. "What cops?" "Detective Holloway." Rachel stepped forward. "He's got enough evidence to move forward with charges." Frank rubbed his face. "You don't understand," he muttered. "Marcus doesn't care about legalities. He just wants his money." "And that's your problem," Emma snapped. Frank lifted his head. "He'll come after you too, Emma. You think you're untouchable, but you're not." Rachel stepped between them. "That sounded like a threat." Frank's expression shifted. "It's a fact." Emma wasn't buying it. "You don't get to manipulate me anymore, Frank." "It's not manipulation, Emma. It's reality. And when Marcus shows up at your door, don't say I didn't warn you." Emma exhaled sharply. "I'll take my chances." She turned and walked out. Rachel lingered for a moment, shaking her head at Frank. "You're pathetic." Frank didn't respond. Rachel followed Emma outside. "That went well," she muttered. Emma didn't answer. She had a bad feeling. A very bad feeling. The fallout, Marcus Kane makes his move. It happened that night. Emma was alone in the cabin, sitting by the fireplace, flipping through an old photo album. Her dad, the lake, the summers that used to feel so full of life. Then a knock at the door. Emma's breath caught in her throat. No one came up here unannounced. She grabbed a fireplace poker, heart hammering as she approached the door. Another knock. She peeked through the curtain. A man stood on the porch. Tall, expensive suit, cold eyes. She didn't need an introduction. Marcus Kane. Emma slowly unlocked the door but didn't open it all the way. "Can I help you?" Marcus smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "I believe we have some unfinished business." Emma tightened her grip on the poker. "I don't owe you anything." "No, but Frank does." Marcus tilted his head. "And when someone owes me money, I collect." "One way or another?" Emma's pulse pounded in her ears. "You're wasting your time," she said. "The sale didn't go through." "I know." Marcus's voice was calm. Too calm. "Then why are you here?" Marcus leaned in slightly. "Because Frank told me you had money." Emma's stomach dropped. He said you'd be willing to help settle his debt. Emma's grip tightened. Frank is a liar. Yes, Marcus agreed, but he's also desperate, and desperate men say desperate things. Emma forced herself to stay calm. I don't have 60 grand lying around. That's a shame, Marcus sighed, because now I have to find another way to settle things. Emma's heart slammed against her ribs. I don't respond well to threats. Marcus grinned. That's what Frank said, and look where he is now. Emma's fingers curled into fists. Get off my property. Marcus studied her for a long moment, then finally, Have a good night, Miss Carter. He turned and walked back to his car. Emma locked the door the second he was gone. Her hands were shaking. Marcus Kane wasn't bluffing. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The moment Marcus Kane left, Emma locked every door and window in the cabin. She gripped the cold metal of the deadbolt, her breath coming in shallow bursts. Her hands still trembled. She had faced many things in her life: loss, betrayal, Frank's endless manipulation. But this was something else. This was real danger. She forced herself to move, to push past the fear that clawed at the edges of her mind. She needed to think, fast. Rachel. She needed Rachel. Emma grabbed her phone and dialed. Please pick up, please pick up. On the third ring, Rachel answered. Em? What's wrong? Marcus Kane just showed up at my door. A sharp inhale on the other end of the line. Are you okay? Emma exhaled slowly, steadying herself. For now, but he wasn't here for a friendly chat. What did he say? That Frank promised him I had money, that if he couldn't pay, I'd step in instead. A beat of silence. Then, that son of a biach, Rachel hissed. You know what this means, right? Yeah. Emma's grip on the phone tightened. He's not going to stop until he gets his money, and if he thinks I'm the easiest target, he'll come back. Then we don't give him the chance. Emma blinked. What are you saying? I'm saying we go on the offensive. Emma frowned, pacing the living room. Rachel, this isn't some legal dispute. This is a criminal. Exactly, Rachel said. And criminals make mistakes. If we find out what Marcus really has on Frank, we can leverage it. We take the fight to him before he takes it to you. Emma hesitated. Marcus Kane wasn't some sleazy con artist. He was dangerous. But Rachel wasn't wrong. Okay, Emma said finally, let's take him down. Unraveling Marcus's empire. Rachel was already working by the time Emma got to her house. The dining table was covered in files, her laptop open to a police database Emma had no idea how she accessed. I did some digging, Rachel said, tapping the screen. Emma leaned in, eyes scanning the information. Marcus Kane's history was worse than she thought. He's been laundering money through fake businesses for years, Rachel explained. And guess who just happened to be one of his business partners? Emma's stomach dropped. Frank. Rachel nodded grimly. Frank wasn't just some guy who owed him money, Em. He was involved in Kane's operations. Small scale, maybe, but enough to make him valuable. Emma rubbed her temples. Jesus Christ. That's why Kane isn't just cutting his losses, Rachel continued. Frank wasn't just a debtor. He was an asset. And when assets become liabilities... Emma finished the thought. They get removed. Rachel's eyes darkened. Exactly. Emma exhaled sharply. So what do we do? Rachel smirked. We give the cops something they can't ignore. Making the call detective Mark Holloway wasn't thrilled to hear from them. You're telling me you suddenly have evidence linking Marcus Kane to financial crimes, he said skeptically over the phone. I'm telling you we have documents that tie him to Frank Dawson, and those documents prove illegal activity, Rachel countered. Holloway sighed. Bring them in, but if this is a waste of my time... It's not, Emma cut in. A pause. Fine, meet me at the station in an hour. Emma hung up and turned to Rachel. Let's end this. The trap Holloway wasn't alone when they got to the station. 2 other officers sat in on the meeting, their expressions unreadable, as Rachel laid out everything. the fraudulent contracts, the forged documents, the evidence linking Marcus to money laundering. By the time she finished, Holloway leaned back in his chair, rubbing his jaw. "If this checks out, we can move on him," he said finally. Emma's pulse quickened. "And Frank?" Holloway exhaled. "If Kane goes down, Frank will too." Rachel smirked. "Good." Marcus Kane's arrest. The next 24 hours were a blur. Emma barely slept, her mind replaying every interaction with Marcus, every warning, every threat. Then the call came. "Emma?" Holloway's voice was sharp. "We got him." Emma sat up straight. "Kane? Picked him up an hour ago. His records were sloppy as hell. We didn't even have to try hard." Emma let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "And Frank?" "Still trying to weasel his way out of it," Holloway muttered. "But it won't matter. His name's all over those fake accounts. He's done." Emma nodded slowly. "Thanks, Detective." "You did good, Carter," Holloway said. "Most people would have backed down, but you didn't." Emma exhaled. "I was done letting him win." Taking back the cabin. A week later, Emma stood on the porch of the mountain cabin, staring out at the endless stretch of trees. Rachel handed her a beer, clinking her own bottle against it. "To winning," Rachel said. Emma smirked. "To never letting anyone screw me over again." Rachel laughed. "Even better." They sat in silence for a moment, the sounds of the wind rustling through the trees, filling the space between them. "So, what's next for you?" Rachel asked finally. Emma thought about it. For the first time in years, she didn't have to worry about Frank, about his lies, his schemes, his endless ability to drag her into his mess. For the first time in years, she was free. "I think I'll finally enjoy this place again," she said. Rachel smiled. "You deserve it, Em." Emma let herself breathe, really breathe, for the first time in a long time. The cabin was hers again. Her life was hers again. And for the first time, she felt at peace.